1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Some say he was an outlaw, that he roamed across the land with a band of unschooled ruffians and a few old fishermen. No one knew just where he came from or exactly what he'd done, but they said it must be something bad that kept him on the run. Some say he was a poet, that he'd stand up on the hill, and his voice could calm an angry crowd or make the waves stand still. That he spoke in many parables that few could understand, but the people sat for hours just to listen to this man. Some say he was a sorcerer, a man of mystery. He could walk upon the water, he could make a blind man see. That he conjured wine at weddings and did tricks with fish and bread. That he talked of being born again and raised people from the dead. Who spoke of being free. He was followed by the masses on the shores of Galilee. He spoke out against corruption and he bowed to no decree. They feared his strength and power, so they nailed him to a tree. Some say he was the Son of God, a man above all men, but he came to be a servant and to set us free from sin. And that's who I believe he was, 'cause that's who I believe. And I think we should get ready, 'cause it's time for us to leave.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. This is Jonathan of Evigilans with Is Today the Day Media. I am followed today by Warspirit-I.T couldn't make it tonight. Sorry, IT. We hope to have you on again soon. General updates with the show. We have been just kind of going through some things. I've got family visiting next week, so I might be taking a hiatus. In such a situation, War Spirit will be hosting the show, and hopefully IT would be able to join him, but if not, then we can still make it work.
If not, I'm going to try, this old guy's going to try this technology, and maybe I'll make it work. You might hear me, you might hear dead air, but I'm going to try.
Right, he's going to give it his best shot. Hit me with your best shot. Yes.
Why don't you hit me with your best shot?
I did got the joke die. Or we're spraying.
Hit me with your best shot. Fire away.
Yeah, so we're starting the show tonight. Some pretty cool updates. It's actually been it's been a weird mix. It's like it's a weird, stressful week for everyone I've ran into. I don't know if that's
yes.
It's kind of it's weird. It's a bit odd. Let me move up my mic here. It's a bit odd, but it's been kind of a stressful week for everyone, and that's not even like political wise. It's just kind of been everyone else wise. I work wise for the most part. I don't know what the correlation between everyone's job and what's been going on in the world has, but that is very much the case.
Right.
So to begin things with local news, Albuquerque. Let's go ahead and go into that real quick. Albuquerque, as I understand, the governor has kind of instated new restrictions on the whole guns, right? Guns in Albuquerque. Is that the governor's fault, or is that the city?
No. So the Albuquerque thing. So that's not the governor's thing. I'm sure she's all for it, but
Right.
the mayor of Albuquerque and the city council, they are trying to push, and they haven't instated it yet. They're wanting to change the state constitution of New Mexico, because right now the state constitution of New Mexico states that any Second Amendment law that is passed goes for the whole state. Now that's good and bad. For us right now it's good, because when they passed the concealed carry law, this was in the early 2000s, it was across the board. It didn't matter what city you were in. If you get a concealed carry permit, the laws are the same everywhere. So also open carry is the same everywhere. A lot of people don't know this, but I can carry in downtown Albuquerque on the street, open carry. Now APD is gonna lose. They're gonna flip their wig, because they're not used to people doing that.
Right.
And you'll probably get some Karen calling the APD, and they'll have to come harass you. But it is totally legal.
Yeah, I was about to say, in the realm of Constitution, I would argue to say it's legal everywhere.
Well, I would argue to say that I shouldn't have to have a concealed carry permit, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's kind of the realm we live in. And if you want to be a law-abiding citizen, you got to jump through their bullcrap hoops. But what they're wanting to do is make it to where no guns. It's basically like Chicago. You can't have guns in public, period, concealed or unconcealed, or like New York City, basically.
Right.
And we know how well New York City and Chicago has gone with that.
Yeah.
How the crime rates just plummeted. I mean, it's just
it just went down. I don't even,
yeah.
like,
My
it was just a
little
miracle.
old granny could walk down the street through there and not have to worry about a thing. I mean, just my 5-year-old could walk across the street in downtown Chicago and she'd be fine.
It's definitely one of those things you can definitely tell that it's a bad idea. To say the least,
Right.
It's a terrible idea. Let's ban guns. That worked for everywhere that it's worked. Worked in Los Angeles, where the gang rate and the gang crime is the highest in the country. Worked
Right.
in Detroit, where it's the second largest problem. And Albuquerque, being one of the few places where crime is, violent crime is actually very prevalent, it still hasn't reached those two areas in certain violent crime statistics, because of the simple fact that people can carry guns to protect themselves. However, you take that away, you're going to have another Chicago, Detroit, Los Angeles on your hands.
Exactly. And already, Albuquerque is the highest in car theft rate in the nation. So now we're not only going to have highest car theft, our violent crimes are going to go up.
Yeah, and the fact that that's only three hours away from our broadcasting station is kind of like spooks. But at that same time, over here we got guns, so I think they'll be smarter than to mess with us up here. We can hope. We can hope. Disclaimer: we can hope. But anyways, that's pretty much it for the local news. The mayor in Albuquerque wants to finish off his city execution style.
Yes.
And other than that, because we're also going to be having kind of a shorter show tonight, we're going to try to throw it for an hour, if that's still the idea, Warspirit.
Well, that was because I was having technical issues with internet. But I mean, if you want to, we still can. We can shut her off at 10 if you want.
We'll see how it goes. We
do got a lot of stuff to go over still. So
yeah.
Trump's speech. That's an interesting one. So President Trump did basically kind of like an address the nation type deal about the stuff that's going on with financially with the hit of the coronavirus and everything, and he had some really cool things. So he is pushing, and he talked about this earlier in the year, but then he went with the stimulus instead. But now he is wanting to push eliminating the payroll tax, and that's going to help business owners. And because that helps business owners, it's also going to filter down to us.
Yep.
Because we're not going to have that tax on our paycheck.
Yeah, a terrible thing. It's like any less taxes. When I heard this, and he's looking into eliminating it, but for now, what I was looking into, it's a deferral, right? The payroll tax.
It's not necessarily a deferral. A deferral means you would have to pay it back later.
That's what I'm worried about. Is that the case? Okay.
No,
well,
it's
good.
The way he's doing. Well, caveat to that: if he wins re-election, it's going to be a forgiven if he wins re-election. But I guarantee you, if Biden wins, it will be a deferral.
Yeah.
Because he'll want it back.
Yeah, and it's looking into this, right? Like the whole concept of Biden. And we don't, like on the show, you may have noticed, everyone, that we don't really talk about the whole Biden-Trump like thing too often. Like we mentioned Biden and his gaffes and the Democrat Party and the Republicans and all this and that, but it's really never our focus. And what I mean by that is like everyone's talking about it. You can get a million different views on it. From just like Google it, and then or Facebook, just go on there. It's a constant thing. So like we like to focus on things, but if I was to give my 2 cents on it, like this current thing with Biden and Trump, and inevitably that's the showdown. The Democrats have to cheat. Not that they have to, but that's the only way. That's the only way they'll win.
Right.
Is cheating. And I mean, that's quote unquote win, but in any case, it's your rights being stripped away as a voting citizen, and it is a concern. Because I look at this, Joe is a maniac. He's dementia-ridden old man, and he's pathetic. And I don't... He's creepy, he sniffs little girls, touches little kids. I just don't understand how it's gone this way. It blows my mind. That was the one.
Speaking of blows, Joe announced his running mate.
That's naughty.
Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Perfect segue, John.
Yeah, Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris is a, quote, black woman. With extra
she's actually...
on the black.
Yeah, she's actually Jamaican and Indian. Not Indian, but oh my goodness gracious, I will drive you in my car kind of Indian.
Yeah, it's a Pajit type.
There you go. Yeah, that's exactly right. So her mama was Hinduese, I guess, is what you would say. Indian. And her dad was Jamaican. And actually, I got some information on that today. So her dad in Jamaica owned slaves.
Interesting.
Not even making this up. He was a proud slave owner. His biography, he talks about it. Wow. And yeah, it's kind of funny. The party of the poor black man and all this is trying to get a daughter, first generation slave owner, elected to vice presidency.
Wow. How peculiar. And we've gotten some comments here. Patriot76 says he has faith in you to do next show, if that happens where you have to run it. And he says, did we hear about Kamala Harris's plan for gun control?
Yes. So she basically wants to ban manufacturing of firearms.
Are you
like
serious?
Across the board? Yeah. No. Yeah, I'm dead serious. She doesn't want to ban the Second Amendment because she can't get rid of that. But she says, well, I can just ban the manufacture of them then. Which is basically, I understand how she thinks that that's not the same thing. But also, she also said that at the very least she wants to delete 10 million firearms from the market. And it was kind of funny. I saw a meme this morning that says, way to go, Kamala. You only got 389 million to go. Bring it on, bitch.
No kidding. That's so silly. Like, I can't... When it's just like, it's one of those things, it's like, can't these people just sit back and realize that it's fruitless? Like,
well, and here's the thing, John. Of course, you know, the criminalizing the manufacture of, probably she would try to start with the 80 lowers and stuff like that first, which has tried to been done in the past. In fact, it has been done in California.
Ghost
you
guns.
Can't. Yeah, you can't do that in California. You actually have to have it serialized and stuff in California.
Ridiculous.
But the thing is once the cat's out of the bag, the cat's out of the bag, and people who truly have any kind of machining skills at all, you can't ban knowledge,
Right.
and so people already know how to do this.
No.
So if you make it illegal, it's just like we were talking about the other night. Well, then it's just going to become a black market thing, and people like say this, you know, somebody you know or something, I don't know, that knows how to do that kind of stuff. He's just gonna take a $50 blank and then sell it for $300 when he finishes it and become a millionaire.
Right. For every market, a sub-market grows. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I need to watch that again. Silly little opera. Anyways.
So she's basically spitting in the wind. It ain't gonna help.
Not at all. Not at all.
And in fact, you know, the right, the majority of right-wing people, we've put up with the riots, we've put up with this, we put up with that. I don't think the liberal left understand that a lot of people are at their breaking point.
Yeah, it's actually insane.
And if the left wins and starts implementing the things that they're going to implement,
Yep.
I think it's going to be a lot of people's breaking point.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things, like, this country is at a brick wall. Like, I was thinking about this, and this is why I was kind of talking about, like, Kamala Harris and Trump and all the stuff that everyone else is talking about. People aren't really thinking in the long term. And what the long term is kind of freaky.
Right.
Because if Trump wins, it's going to be even, you know, the battle's just going to go on. And that's fine. You know, battles last, wars go on for years at a time. That's fine. And this has been a psychological war as much as it has been a metaphorical...
Oh, yeah, it's been one big psyop the whole time.
It's been a massive war. And this has started in 2016, even before so. Even during Obama, even during Bush, these deep state hooligans have been at this. Even before Bush, let's say, you know. You know, and so... I've been looking at this, and it's kind of like reaching a, like I will say again, a brick wall, because right now if Trump wins, the left is going to throw a massive tantrum. We're going to have COVID-20 or something absolutely redonkulous that'll just rip the peace that we have, like, into a very, I mean, it's fragile as it is, but it might very well shatter. And if Biden wins, well, same thing from the other side. This nation it's at its breaking point. We're very, very close. And Patriot 76 says it every time that, you know, civil war is inevitable. And
as much as I hate that, like, you know, because I sit back, I don't want to fight Americans. I hate that idea. It's a hateful idea. I don't like it. And it's just one of those things where, you know, we take this idea of a constitution and it must be backed up by force, really. There's no getting around it. Yeah,
and you got government officials that are they're making their decisions of who they're going to back. For example, as far as I see it, the New Mexico State Police have decided to back Governor Grisham.
Right. So, like, you're even looking at that on the police scale. Like, the government versus people scale is actually very interesting. But what I'm more talking about, like, when you guys are talking about, you know, I don't think people realize this, that civil war isn't as simple. It's not a simple equation. It's not the people as a whole against the government. It's not. And I wish it was, because that would make it very simple. In fact, we wouldn't have this problem. Because we outnumber tyrants, 10-1. No, the problem is the same problem the forefathers had. Loyalists. And the problem with that is that people have, just like us, rights to believe what they want to believe. And it kind of gets to a weird point where it's like, no, we can't allow this. And it's not so much that we're fighting against their right to believe, we're just fighting against their thirst for our blood, really.
Well, when you start having an organization, a governmental organization, making videos about, if you see somebody that's not wearing a mask, make sure and turn them in.
Yeah.
That's when it starts becoming
that's when it gets weird. So, like, what I was saying is, like, on the whole concept of inner conflict within a nation. Yeah. You're not looking at tyrants and people, right? It's not the comic book with the Molotov and the hero, it's not like that. It's somebody is getting their house busted in because they believe wrongly, and it's just like one of those things where it's like, I don't like that idea because that swings both ways. It's a civil conflict. And, I don't think it's going to be much of a worry for gun owners and that sort of thing because, what worry is a bunch of dyed-haired freaks and all that sort of business. But anyways, what I'm saying is, like, a phrase that's oftenly said, and it's a very radical phrase, and it's a very scary phrase. These people have names and addresses. To just put it that way. And, when you start to realize who's responsible for robbing people, who's responsible for destroying our way of life that we have fought and worked for our entire lives. Once you find that out, and once the people of this nation figure it out, they're gonna lash on even the little people. They're gonna lash at even the little people responsible. Every piece of anchor, every barbaric instinct of man will come out. And we're at that brick wall. America has reached this boiling point. And now there is no fixing it.
And the thugs of the world are going to come out. You have some people, the only reason why they're decent is because they don't want to get in trouble.
Yep.
And when these people realize, just like the riots that have gone on, when they realize that, the cops aren't going to come, that's when the animalistic instincts start kicking in.
Yep.
And you get these thugs, these in the old days were called bandits.
Yep. And you also have the just the concept of power in numbers. It's kind of the same thing, like you're in a wolf pack on the highway. You're probably going to keep up with the wolf pack.
Right.
It's going faster than it should be, but the cop isn't going to pull over 10 different vehicles at once. They can try. In fact, that has happened, but it's usually whoever's stupid enough to pull over.
It's usually either the first or the last guy. If you're kind of in the middle,
probably all right.
You're pretty safe.
Right, but that's kind of how it goes, even in conflicts.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's just kind of one of the things. It's like, be careful with these words, ladies and gentlemen, because I see people throw these things around like they're just that it's a simple thing. Like, oh yes, the people can rise up and We're just waiting for them to rise up right now, and that's going to be that. Everyone's going to be happy. Everyone's going to be good to go. And yeah, like that's something we should aspire to. It's not very likely to go.
When it comes down to brass tacks, everybody talks a big game.
Yeah.
But the majority of people are like, even with the mass stuff, I've seen it where they're like, well, I just don't want to cause any trouble.
Yeah.
I'll just do what I'm told. Yeah. And for the most part, like even, and I understand this part. Like if you have to wear it like because of your job or whatever, well, you're just doing it to take care of your family or whatever. But I've even seen people that are complying even when they're not at work and stuff, and it's like, why?
Yeah, no, seriously.
Well, they won't let me in there. Okay, well then don't shop at Walmart.
Exactly. It's just one of those things that, big talk, and I just want people to realize, like, I mean, if you've been through a traumatic scenario, like a car crash sounds fun in theory. That's just, to compare it to something. A car crash could be pretty fun in theory, but, when it's all over or while it's happening,
everyone.
It's terrifying.
Attention, everyone. Attention, this is War Spirit.
Yeah.
A car crash is not fun.
No, it's not fun. And just like war might sound cool if you've, or like, yeah, a car crash could be fun if all you've played is arena derby video games.
Right.
But when you get into one, oh my gosh, this is not fun. This is terrifying. Same thing.
Now, some of those Antifa guys have already figured that out too with, it's easy to be big and tough and a keyboard commando on the internet, but then when you go up against some of these guys, these MAGA guys, you end up getting your ass whooped.
For some reason, they're usually like, they eat a lot of food and work out, and for some reason, they're just such better fighters than we are. That's something that's so funny. Like, I've kind of noticed that with people. And I mean, I'm not like the best built guy, but I'm not, even that, I'm not afraid of Antifa. Like, I mean, maybe if they're in a horde, they'd be a threat, but like, if it was one skinny beanpole and he was giving me hell, honestly, because, like, statistically, that's all they are. They're either incredibly fat people or incredibly scrawny, anorexic
or just a dye-haired lesbian.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And so I was thinking, it's like, how funny is it that people with solid minds, and this is all across all boards, people with solid intuition, minds, and morals just are more attractive than people who don't have that. Like, generally, like, what is that? Like, I don't get it. Like, I'm looking at this, it's like, shouldn't there be some attractive leftists? Excuse me, Alexandria Ocasio. I mean, she's kind of attractive. I mean, I've still seen prettier right-wingers. But,
Unless you look at her face or her mouth, that horse tooth.
Yeah, but...
Oh my God.
Even some right-wingers got little things like that. But on such a massive scale, like the young left movement are so collectively hideous. Or, like, like they all the men have, like, receding hairlines, messed up. They're just nasty. Look, I don't know how to describe it. It's not because I generally despise them. It's like, no. If you didn't know them, you'd be like, gee, that's an ugly mother hubber right there.
The women are usually horse-faced and ugly-looking and many times fat. And the guys are these little bitty, scrawny, skinny bean poles that you can see their ribs.
Yeah, it's actually very odd. And I don't know what the connection is. And I think it's just the same thing as, like, you see a crackhead, right? You can tell when someone's used crack for years on end. And you can tell when someone's delved into evil for years on end. And that's very much the case with these Antifa pukes.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, I'm not quite for sure with the male side of it, why they're like, I guess it's just because they don't like do any hard work. They're just like, oh, hi guys. But for the women, for the most part, another thing that I think changes the attraction scale for conservative women is just you can see that for the most part they have a smile.
Yeah, like I mean,
you'd be
that's the thing, too,
surprised
like,
at how much more attractive somebody looks, and this is male and female, if you just smile.
Yeah, no kidding. Maybe I need to try that. Maybe that's why I haven't got a girlfriend. I just need to smile.
Well, you can't see your smile right now. Got to cover it with a mask.
Yeah. Yeah. Wouldn't want to be caught lacking without my mask.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, if this COVID stuff like guarantees that I die lonely, I'm gonna be mad. It's like, imagine that, right? Anyways, it is kind of odd, and I have noticed that like the whinier and the bitchier someone is, just the less pleasant they are. Just like,
yeah, they're off-putting.
Yeah, and I guess that's just generally. I mean, nobody likes a whiner, but like with the leftists, that really is all they do. That is all they do. They complain and they whine, and a lot of that can be said a lot about, you know, far right wingers, but even far right wingers like I've seen and I don't mean that like far right wingers. I mean like socialist right wingers, and they're not right wingers.
No,
But,
yeah, I know what you mean.
But like even they, like, you know, they're usually pretty built, and their women are usually pretty doggone attractive. You know, so
Well,
it's just, again, but it's like,
that's
you know,
just, again, it's years and years and years of having just like that bitterness and hatred in your heart, I think, is what just like makes you ugly.
Yeah, and it is odd. Yeah, no, seriously. And I think some of them go out of their way to appear as hideous as possible.
Oh yeah, they do. They'll purposely put like, and don't get me wrong, like I think like a stud like in a woman's nose is kind of cute, like just a little bitty,
Right?
like,
Put that pig
but
nose thing in there.
but when they put the like freaking like bull thing in their ear, in their nose, like it looks like a bull ring, that looks disgusting.
Yeah, you can usually tell how toxic someone is if they got that type of thing going.
Yeah.
Especially with the females. But, comments here. You can buy all the gear and knowledge, says Patriot76, but part of being a capable citizen is also having the ability to perform. A quote from Carl Erickson, RETSF operator, U.S. Army. And here another comment. A lot of conservative women are insufferable, though, see Tommy. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's again, when you just have an entire culture of just whining and complaining. That does go both ways. Because, you know, it's like, imagine like trying to watch a modern film with like someone who's like a super like boomer Christian. And that's not a problem, but like I do get a kick out of it. It's like I try to watch a film with like someone in my family, and they're like, "What does that mean?" I'm like, "I don't know." And they're like, "Is that promoting something?" And I was like, "Probably." I don't know. It kind of sucks that you do have to like mentally. Well, you don't really have to. In fact, credit to people who see things for what they are. Blessed are the meek, you know. And I think a lot of people have kind of been desensitized to a lot of stuff that the media pushes. Like, I was kind of talking. I was like, the idea of Stewie, right? The idea of Stewie from Family Guy kind of bothers me at sub-basis concept, because I was looking at it, and like he's always playing as a gay character. Like, he's a very flamboyant...
no, he's not.
Yeah, he's a very flamboyant child. And, you know, on concept, like, when you're looking at it, your mind doesn't really perceive him as a baby. You know? Because his character is not a baby, more or less. But, like, at the same time, I kind of, like, looked back on it, and I was like, you know, I kind of feel like this is alluding to some kind of desensitization. I really feel that they want to sexualize this character, which bothers me, especially in this climate.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
I was saying no, they don't, like,
yeah,
jokingly, but they blatantly do.
Yeah.
And he constantly is like, you know, he'll like, there's one episode I remember seeing, like, he was looking at a magazine of like bodybuilder men going, ooh, I'm like, that's disgusting.
Yeah, and that's just kind of one of those things where I just kind of sit back and I'm like, most of America doesn't really even realize it, because Stewie that's his character, right? Like, we don't even see him as a child, but like mentally I can see kind of like a brainwashing program here. And there's a lot of shows that do stuff like this with children. There was a popular show
like SpongeBob.
Well, yeah, arguably, yeah. I mean, personally, I didn't see the connection. But like when you started talking about it, I was like, well, yeah, SpongeBob definitely shows very flamboyant tendencies, and I'm very sick of seeing overly soft men. Don't get me wrong. You can be soft as a man when the time calls for it, but sometimes for buttness gracious, bite your lips, son. Stop quivering and whining like a little pansy. Become a man.
Remember from last week though, like, Tommy Lahren went off. You have to be tough, but you can't be too tough. But you got to be just tough enough, but you can't, you got to be just a little bit, you got to be soft, but you can't be soft, and you got to be a Navy SEAL that kisses puppies.
Tell you what. Bring back tradition. Let your children watch Johnny Bravo. That'll teach you how to be a man.
Johnny Bravo.
Mama, where?
Oh dear.
I like that show. There's a lot of those old shows. Courage the Cowardly Dog's good too. Again, it just kind of goes into when you like break that mind cycle. Like try to think of a show immediately that like you would love normally. Like look at it in like base level, like without the context, and you'll actually be shocked a lot of the time where it's like this flew, and it's just kind of one of those things. I know that's not really what we were it's kind of a rabbit trail that grew into something, but it's good conversation. Going into further news, what is all this business that I hear, Warspirit, of a UFO task force?
Oh yeah, so the Pentagon has actually launched a task force to investigate all the UFO sightings. There's actually been a lot of UFO sightings as of late, like here just like very, very, very recently. And there's actually been some videos floating on YouTube about it, some of them showing. The one in particular that's the most popular that was just happened, I believe just a couple weeks ago, shows this strange-looking craft, and it's in the middle of the ocean, and it's only about 30 or 40 feet off the surface of the water, and it's just ripping, it's just hauling butt, and they're like, wow, and the pilot can't even keep up with it. They didn't know what it was. And so that's the most recent. And
Right.
of course, everybody thinks, they're extraterrestrial. Well, I actually tend to believe, especially from where the sightings are in the ocean, because this was kind of close to the South China Sea, I kind of tend to think that it's Chinese aircraft.
Right. Which it could very well be. I mean, all these nations, America especially, like it's America's not the only one to have the equivalent to Area 51 with the prototype aircrafts,
Well, and see, and I was actually reading about a debate of that, and I did bring up a point on Facebook to some people, and they're like, "Well, yeah, we didn't think of that." If it is China that is doing this, who do they steal the technology from?
Probably those Krauts, dude. Not even gonna lie. I swear.
Yeah, whoever it was, us, the Krauts, whoever. I guarantee you, it wasn't communists that come up with its new technology.
No. I mean, that's just, every communist nation there is, Cuba modernly is still 20 years in the past, if not 40. And it's just kind of like one of those things where, I don't know, like, I kind of sit back and I could see this again, like, they're saying that Trump could very well win, and it's like, oh, spring the aliens. You know what I mean? Spring the alien controversy, Oh, no. Hey, guys, we know that, like, Trump is winning by landslide, but did you know there's aliens? Stay indoors. Wear your mask. Don't get the alien ectoplasm on your shoes.
We gotta get rid of the COVID is what brought on the aliens. It was a homing beacon.
Right, it was a homing beacon. The aliens brought us COVID. And what's bothersome is once the government acknowledges a, quote, existence of aliens, like, that's gonna probably change the world. I don't know, like, if immediately But that would be very, like I don't even understand how this would be like feasible, because obviously, I mean, everyone's pondered the existence of aliens. Everyone's pondered it. It's one of those questions, I guess. People kind of make it into a bigger deal than I think it is. Like, people are like, "Are we alone in the universe?" I'm like, no. I got friends. Do you know what friends are? They're pretty cool. No?
Well,
I don't really get that whole thing where it's like we're alone in the universe. I'm like, what, as Earth? Maybe. Who cares? Do you have any control over that? Like, I'm just trying to meet people, dude. I don't really care about aliens. It's people. People are hard enough to get in contact with, for crying out loud. What do you care about aliens?
What if it was a alien planet of Vulcan women?
Well, Vulcans are kind of emotionless. I kind of like passion. No.
I was just gonna say we won't see these. We won't actually meet these aliens until we invent our first warp core.
Right. Well, maybe they could help us.
Then they'll come meet us, and they'll give us all kinds of good technology.
Yeah, no kidding.
If aliens exist, which I don't believe they do.
Right, and I've kind of pondered it. Yeah, Earth Federation of some sort. Proof of alien existence will spur a one-world government. Or some sort of Earth Federation of some sort. Yeah!
The United Federation of Planets.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting. That was a comment from, by the way. So, like, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, I think that would be kind of crazy. Like, the whole world would, like, sit down and be like, maybe, like, just miraculously, right? Wars would stop because there's company. We're not alone on this planet. There's more. And it's naive.
Yeah, even if there was, say there was a race of aliens that were peaceful, and we met them because our technology was growing enough. They finally allowed themselves to meet up with us,
right?
And it was announced to the world. Well, you know what's actually going to happen? Instead of the world coming together, everybody's going to be fighting over who gets to have this technology from the aliens.
Right.
So human nature is going to be like, no, I want it.
We come in peace. We come in peace. Oh my gosh. All this talk of aliens, and I know you're the movie buff. You know what I want to watch, Warspirit? Go ahead and guess.
Mars Attacks?
Yeah! Dude, I want to watch.
I tried to think of the dumbest alien movie I could think of.
Ah, come on. It's one of the best there is when it comes to aliens.
No, I hate that movie.
It's a great.
The only good part is when the guy that played off of The Shining.
Oh, Jack Nicholson.
Mr. Yeah, President. When Jack Nicholson's face gets melted. That's the only funny part.
Jack Nicholson's a pretty cool dude, though, like as an actor.
Oh yeah, he's a good actor. I just
I don't know
find that part comical.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was a politically charged statement or no. Okay, it's just a funny moment, which I agree. Like that whole scene, like that's what I was quoting. We come in peace, and there's like a dove flying, and they flip out.
Oh my gosh! And then like he turns around, and he shoots him, and he's like, all you can see is his skull.
Yeah, the birds start flying, and they flip out like that. It's just hilarious film to me. Aliens, even when I was a kid, like aliens as a concept intrigued me. I'm serious.
Now there's a movie, you just said it. Aliens.
Oh yeah,
the second in the trilogy is the best. Aliens. Yeah. Sigourney Weaver, awesome.
Yeah, I gotta say the Alien series is actually pretty neat. Even as a sci-fi, like looking at it. It's kind of that same feeling I get when I look at, like, when I watch The Fifth Element in the modern time. It's kind of like you look back on it, and it's like, what?
I just said Fifth Element, yes.
Yeah, when you look back on it, and it's kind of like this, like, retro future kind of look to it. Mm-hmm. It's actually really cool seeing what, like, the 80s thought, or, like, the 90s thought the future was going to look like.
I love retrofuturism. It's one of my favorite. Yeah, and The Fifth Element, you always see the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Like they still their computers can 3D print stuff, but for some reason they're still the 95 DOS monitor.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of cracked me up. Like even the microwave is larger than what we have now. that sort of thing, and it's just kind of cool. But anyways, aliens have always intrigued me, Warspirit. I'm serious, and I don't know. I kind of believe that there's possible creatures out and about on other planets. I don't really think they're advanced.
Yeah, they're not. They're not sentient.
Yeah, I don't think they have like a soul or a way of telling right from wrong or advancing. They're just kind of creatures, animals. I think that's very possible. But I've also kind of studied into the concept of like, well, what if there's like these creatures that also were able to build planes or UFOs of some kind? And it's just kind of fascinated me in a concept.
I was just going to say, of course, you went ahead and said planes and stuff, but you said, creatures or animals. So basically you're saying maybe the Democrat Party is out in space?
No, that Joe Biden sure is higher than a kite.
That dude, he's not high. He's just, it's lack of blood to the brain. I think
the aliens are freaking transmitting to his brain, trying to figure out how humans talk sometimes.
Maybe so. I actually have a prediction for that. I do not think there is going to be a debate that takes place. They're going to come up with some bullcrap excuse to why he can't because of safety reasons for COVID or whatever. Because they can't allow him to speak, because if he speaks, it's going to make it that much worse.
Right.
Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they don't care because they're planning on cheating anyways. That is the only way, and you said it earlier, and I've said it before, that's the only way the Democrats have a chance of winning, is if they can stuff the ballot box with enough absentees from dead people and stuff like that.
Cheating. It's going to be interesting. Before we get off of the alien topic, we have some comments.
Oh, sure.
If the universe is as large as people say it is, then there's definitely others out there. The main issue is that they are probably so far away we will never meet them. And before you start Warspirit, I kind of, and it doesn't really
what I'm
make
going to say.
Hell of a difference. It doesn't make a hell of a difference to me, but I do believe that there are aliens. I think they are very plausible.
Okay, so here's, and maybe you're right as far as animals, but here's the reason why I do not think we are going to ever see, and they do not exist, aliens with little spaceships that are come down, take me to your leader, because, or even attack, because God's word talks about when the fall happened with Adam and Eve, and it says that the whole universe was cursed because of what mankind did from disobeying God.
Interesting.
So, if that is true, which I believe God's word is true, it's infallible, it's the infallible living word of God. If that's true, that means if there was a sentient being billions of light years away, that's still part of the universe,
right?
They would be living under punishment for what we did.
Oh, well, I mean, it's kind of one of those
God
things.
is a just God. God will not allow.
I know he is. But like people who don't exist yet are gonna suffer under the curse. You know what I mean? It's kind of
but that's mankind.
That's true.
It doesn't matter that they don't exist yet. It's still. And also.
Well, animals suffer under the curse. Animals didn't do anything wrong.
That's part of the creation. That's all. It says all of creation.
Well, what if the aliens are part of creation?
But they would be, if they're sentient. That's not. It's not their fault.
Okay.
And also, if they're aliens, that means, are they? They would be lesser than us because we are the ones that are made in God's image.
I do believe they would be lesser than us. Maybe, and let's put it this way, and that's kind of why I point to the animal theology, where it's just like, yeah, there's probably creatures out there, but they're just kind of they're just like whales at best. They might be smart, but they're just swimming around or whatever. They're just kind of like deers. Like, who knows? They're creatures. And I don't know, like the concept of a UFO, like there's been so many different sightings. And yeah, we can say, oh, well, there's somebody figured it out and like how to make these different aircrafts, and they're just test trying them. Because after all, what would a nuclear aircraft look like, right? Like a nuclear submarine? What would a nuclear aircraft look like? Perhaps like a spinning disc. Perhaps they gotta house that thing. They gotta house the reactor or something. I don't know.
The thing, yeah.
Yeah, the thing. The thing. Pulling a Joe Biden.
I was gonna say. Okay, Joe. Well, that very well could be that it's some kind of nuclear to channel George Bush. Another thought could be, what is something else that's round, that spins around, that's got discs, it looks really weird? Cherubim,
clown.
Right?
I was about to say clown at a carnival does that.
It could be spiritual.
Could be. And the angels, yes, the cherubim, as you were saying.
Yeah.
Or cherubim or cherubim, whatever they're called.
Yeah. It could be. We could be seeing spiritual. I truly believe we're reaching end times. Whoa. So what if the spectrum of usually what we can't see is becoming the scene?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you right now, I've seen some kind of experimental aircraft, and this one I could definitely attribute to man. I saw it in person, Warspirit. I saw it in person. I bear witness. Triangles in the sky that make all kinds of weird colors and stuff that follow people around. They're freaky.
Are you sure you weren't smoking some of this stuff?
I wasn't zooted, bro. I was a kid,
is like
bro.
Made illegal in Colorado. You lived in Colorado for a while. I'm just saying.
No, it was on the drive back from Albuquerque. Me and my family got trailed by this triangle object, which this is a common occurrence. Like this aircraft has been spotted many times. It's like 3 lights in a triangle formation, and sometimes there's lines between the lights that sometimes go like rainbows, sometimes go like who knows what and what different directions.
That's only the gay aliens when there's rainbows.
Right, the gay aliens. But like I've always kind of like thought, like, yeah, that's very possibly a man-made invention, some Area 51 prototype crap. And that's just how I've seen it. I mean, New Mexico is, like there's so much open air, and nobody usually goes outside at night because there's nothing to do. And on this abandoned stretch of road back in 2004, there's no doubt in my mind that aliens would be, or not aliens, but prototypes would just be chilling out in the sky. It's a pretty good time to be doing it.
And I've seen something similar up around Dove Creek.
Too. I don't know what that's all about.
The orb, the round things is what I saw. Me and a buddy of mine. So there's this in June. There's this ham radio competition that always happens every year, and basically, it's where all the ham operators once a year they get together, and usually they'll go camping and stuff because it's a competition of using your emergency equipment without power. And so
go ahead and keep going. I'm sorry.
You operate on car batteries and different things, and it's actually escaping my mind what it's called right now, but it's what the competition's called, but it's right around June 20th. This always happens, and so me and my buddy, we was up at his grandfather's place because he let us up there. There's a cabin up there around Dove Creek, and we were going late into the night making contacts because when you use HF, especially on the 40-meter band, once the sun's down, that's the best time to do it. So sometime around 2 in the morning, me and my buddy were sitting around the campfire, and I'm looking up in the sky, and I said, "Hey, Curtis." He's like, "What? You see that? What?" So I pointed out this like round looking orb thing, and it moved. It moved in the sky literally like really fast. Like it only looked like, from looking from your hand, like 3 inches. But in reality, that was like 600-700 feet, like in a blink of an eye.
I think you've told me that story before. It was very odd.
Yeah. And so we watched it for a while. and it kept doing that, darting back and forth, and it just boom disappeared.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what it was. I personally don't think it was aliens. He totally thought, he's like, those are aliens, bro. I'm like, no.
You've seen it with your own eyes, and you still reject to believe this guy, everybody. This guy. Yeah, he believes the moon landing, but he doesn't believe in aliens.
It's called technology.
Well, jokes aside, it's very, I don't know. I doubt, because we've come pretty far. And the whole concept of, a civilization existing before us or whatever, and it just doesn't make sense in a lot of ways. But even if it was, undeniably proven that aliens exist, it still isn't a faith breaker. God made all this stuff, that we'll never get to visit in our lifetime or anything. You know what I mean? We will never, as human beings, ever figure out how to travel space.
What if it was originally intended for us to do so, though, until we screwed up?
Truly. But I'm sitting back, and it's just one of those things. I sit back, and it's like he made all this stuff. And, I mean, you're going to tell me that it's not possible that some other civilization was just like, I don't know. I guess, man. I don't know.
Not sentient. I will give you
not sentient,
possibly animals.
Way. Well, that's the thing I look at, right? Maybe spiritual creatures. And I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. It's one of three things.
Yeah.
It's our own technology.
Angels or
demons. It's demonic or angelic.
Right. And there's really going to be no way of telling unless they generally came down here and was like, we're angels or we're demons, or in the very odd circumstance, we're aliens, but even then they could just be BS, and who knows?
Well, that's what I was just going to say. That actually sounds like something that Satan would actually do. Right. Hey, we're aliens, and you need to worship us.
Right, because we know the way, which might be something they point to. Like, I was hearing about this thing called Operation Bluebeam, where they could portray different images in the sky over a set amount of time. Like, they've got a crucifix with Jesus on it. It's the second coming. And everyone's going to be like, it's the second coming. And, it's going to be a false second coming. Like, I was looking at this concept, and I was like, that's kind of, that wouldn't work really
well. The Antichrist is what that is. The Antichrist is the false second coming.
And that's what I was saying with Operation Bluebeam or whatever, which is mostly just, tinfoil hat type crap.
Something the Q community probably made up.
Right. It's still kind of a pretty spoop idea, because I would think it would be pretty clear to see. It's like, this isn't adding up. This is the Antichrist. This is BS. And we will see in due time what that'll look like. But anyways, let's move off of our alien friends in space.
Who don't exist.
Also, right. But before I go off of that, how interesting that these waves could technically, if theoretically, hypothetically, a civilization existed that it would be possible for my voice, just like everyone else's voice on stream or whatever, that this signal just travels endlessly in space, and 40 years from now it might reach somewhere like or what's it called? Betelgeuse, the star. And it just kind of blew my mind that they actually were able to measure how what it would sound like if you were listening to the Earth from a distant planet. It was like if you were listening to it from the Betelgeuse star system, you'd be hearing Hitler talking. Yeah, and it just blew my mind. I was like, "What? That's so cool!"
That's one thing I always love about amateur radio is to think say one day we're able to visit the stars.
Right. You'll hear,
and all of a sudden my great grandfather's just chilling on a star, and he starts hearing, my call sign. Well, right. That's kind of cool.
The idea of humans going forth and actually exploring the stars actually is a really cool idea. Because I had a small space kick. It wasn't very long, but I got really enthused by space. The concept of how massive planets are and yet how small they are It's very interesting. And just
if we could ever figure out how to bend space-time, we could do it.
Right, and I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think so either. But and I don't mean like time travel. I just mean jump from one place to another.
Yeah, kind of like
bending
the closest
space-time.
thing you can get to teleportation, more or less.
Basically, yeah. Like take two dots on a paper. If you was able to take that paper and that paper represents space, and you fold it over on each other.
Which is kind of an interesting deal, because how do you fold objects? Like, it's kind of
you bend space time by it, and this is Einstein's theory. You bend space time by approaching the speed of light. A physical object, according to him, possibly would bend space time if it approached the speed of light. So if we could ever invent light speed travel, then we might be able to figure out how to harness bending space-time.
That'd be really cool.
Also, changing the subject real quick. So, Ghislaine Maxwell's dad came into the news here this week. He is the gentleman that is responsible for making Mitt Romney a millionaire.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what you were showing me. It's very peculiar. The connections to every big name there is, for some reason.
Goes back to Epstein and Maxwell.
Yeah, and it's like you look at Romney, you look at everybody that's been a big name in the recent set of time and days, and it just goes back to Epstein. Even the events right now. Hell, COVID's got connections to Epstein, dude. Like, what the heck? Like, I was like sitting back. I'm like, what?
How does COVID have connections to Epstein?
Well, what I mean is, it's like when you start to realize, like, the timing and everything, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Well, like, maybe the release of it, as far as they knew that that Maxwell was going to be caught. If you mean it that way, yeah, then maybe. What's interesting with this is so Maxwell's dad and Maxwell's dad's best buddy, John Lyons. I think it's John Lyons. His last name's Lyons. They are the ones that put money into Romney's first venture capital fund business.
Right.
And they're the one that they funded him, like, I think $20 million to start off with. And so they're the ones that made him basically rich overnight with this business that basically was set up. All he had to do was just sit back and rake in the simoleons.
And I know this is kind of a reach. But Romney's a pretty prominent figure in a certain church. A certain
the ones that believe in the aliens.
Hey, that ain't even fair, bro.
It's true.
No.
Yes, it is.
No.
Yes, it is.
No.
Mormons believe in aliens.
I know Mormons believe in aliens, but it doesn't mean everybody believes in aliens is Mormon. Come on now.
If you're a good enough person, John, you can become a god and have your own aliens.
I'm gonna go to Planet Kolob and tell my wife to stay put.
Yeah.
That messed me up. We're not going to get into that. But Romney is a Mormon. Very peculiar. And I just kind of can't help but wonder. I said, because I kind of think to myself with everything, with every prominent figure, I'm like, I wonder if the Mormon church has something going on. I just really do. They're very suspicious, very secretive, Freemasonic connections. Like, I sit back, I'm like, do people need to put their eyeglass on the Mormon church?
I mean, nothing's come out.
Pepsi, man.
Nothing's come out with like Epstein and all this stuff with Mormons. So, I mean, I don't agree with the LDS church and what they teach, especially about Jesus, is very inerrant. Coca-Cola.
No,
they
Pepsi.
own Coke.
No, it's Pepsi. Hold on.
No, they own Coke.
Which soda company is owned by Romney?
Not Romney.
I know, it's owned by Mormons. Coca-Cola! Wait a minute!
Don't doubt me ever again. Thank you.
False!
Anyways.
False! We're both wrong! Well, that's according to Snopes. But if they do own one, it's Coca-Cola, so you're closer than I am. Anyways.
It's Coke. The Mormons own Coke. Because
Coke.
before that...
Or you crackhead.
Before that, they're like, oh, you can't have any substances, even caffeine. But then when the Mormon Church invested in Coca-Cola, see, that's what it is. They don't actually own it. They just put a big investment, the church did, into Coca-Cola. Then all of a sudden,
that was Coca-Cola's fine.
I just saw a vision. You can drink Coke. It's okay.
Right. Yeah, it's like the dude comes up from the sink, like he comes back from the bathroom. Coca-Cola is holy. I don't know.
The great the heck was that dude's name? Joseph Smith came to me in a dream and told me Coke was good.
So, speaking of Mormons, just real quick from our comments, I don't believe it's LDS. I think they still go by that for the most part, but I guess they rebranded to Come Unto Christ Ministries. Interesting.
Well, yeah, you got to change your name when you start getting found out.
Yeah, you'll notice that with the silly Marmites.
Christianity is Christianity. Cults change their names.
Constantly.
Just like liberals. You know, first they're liberal. Well, they figured out, well, now we're leftists. Well, now they figured that out, so now we're progressives. And progressives were actually they were originally called back when it was what's his name with the New Deal? Who did the New Deal?
What,
in the 30s.
In the 30s? Shoot! Oh!
He is the one that built the Hoover Dam.
Hoover?
No.
1930s. Progressive. Let's look that up.
He's the one that the Dems claim brought us out of the Great Depression, but that didn't. World War II brought us out. FDR. FDR was actually the original progressive, and he's the one that coined the phrase progressive.
Was nice enough to comment FDR. For some reason, like I was thinking, if you would have said 40s, I would have clicked with FDR because he's a dummy in the 40s.
I could not frickin' think of his name for the life of me, but I knew. So he's the one that did the whole New Deal, all that crap. And so he was the one that originally coined the word progressive. And now, as time went on, they figured out, I was like, back then they figured out, well, FDR actually didn't do that good of a job. And so progressivism was kind of like, oh, well, we're not going to call ourselves that no more. But it's gone full loop. From progressive to liberal to leftist, now back to progressive again. Because the kids of today do not know history. That's why it's so important, kids, to know your history.
Yeah, it's very important. So Romney got rich so Romney got rich from Ghislaine Maxwell's father.
Correct. And his father's friend Lyons.
How interesting.
They're the ones that went in and they gave him all this money to do this venture capital deal, and that's the reason why he's got his millions. But my question is, why? Why Romney? He wasn't nothing special. He wasn't. From what I've been able to ascertain and research, the families didn't know each other before this. It's just like walking up to some random dude on the street and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna make you a millionaire."
Well, is that how it went? You know, like that's like
more or less. I mean, there's no information on that. But I just find it odd. Like, what did they get out of this deal?
Right. I don't know. It is a bit odd. Like when you look into it as a general, like just kind of like. You theorize, and in the world where right now everything is a theory, kind of notice that? It's kind of disturbing. I hate it just as much as you do. Yeah, as much as you guys do. Everybody does. There's no solid ground evidence on a lot of this pedo stuff. I mean, heck, Wayfair, all they had to do was say, well, we're not involved with it, and now Snopes is like, it didn't happen. It's not real.
It didn't happen.
And so now everyone's a little unsure. It's like, well, is that real?
Who cares if this, like, very rare name right here was exactly the same name as that locker? It didn't happen.
Yeah, it's very unlikely. And it's just kind of like, again, Very odd. So many coincidences. So many things up to chance. And once you start getting into it, there's a very wise saying, and I can't remember if it was in a film or whatever, if it was an actual historical quote, but if you've been on the world long enough, you start to realize that nothing is up as a coincidence. Nothing is a coincidence. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to human interactions. Like it's very...
I don't think that's a film, because it doesn't ring a bell.
I don't know, but it's just like, it's one of those things, and that could just simply mean, things are coded by a creator to happen at a certain time. I strongly believe that. Not
going back
but,
going back to Solomon's quote, "There's nothing new under the sun."
Yeah, and that's
basically
what I'm saying,
the same thing.
Not to do Calvinist BS. Calvinists, we're talking a lot of crap on the Christian fools today. I mean, we're Christians, and we are fools in our own way, but goodness gracious. Kolob? Really? Anyways, my question is that, what would Romney have to do with that? Romney is a very prominent figure, he's kind of a forgotten old man, in my opinion, nowadays.
Yeah, he's kind of become irrelevant.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't really matter what he's doing, But
well,
at the same time,
it is if he's a money backer for the cabal.
Right, and it kind of makes me wonder. Kind of makes me ponder. What on earth would the world look like today if Romney got to be president? Would this whole ring have been exposed?
Probably not.
That's one of the things. It's like Christians.
He's definitely was not on our side. I mean, it's been made evident because of the things he set out, and so much hatred he's had for Trump. He's basically gone further and further left the longer the Trump's presidency has gone in.
Trump gets in there, and all these people you've forgotten about start showing up again.
Right.
With vicious anger and hatred. It's just kind of odd. It seems like there seems to be a connection between people who don't like Trump and the pedo ring. A very odd connection.
Yep.
Very prominent one, too.
And moving on with the pedo connection. So, Ghislaine Maxwell was just taken off suicide watch this week.
Yeah, that whole...
And she was placed in the general pop.
Which is interesting, right? Perhaps she's trying to protect her life, is what you were suggesting.
Here's the kicker. Yeah. Her and her lawyers are the ones that demanded it.
That's bizarre.
Yes. According to, and, take it with a grain of salt, but ABC News are the ones that actually got this scoop. And they were saying that her and her lawyers, the ones that demanded that she be taken off suicide watch and put in the general population. Now, I do have a theory on this, because I'm like, wow, if I was Ghislaine, and because she has already said that she is afraid that she was going to quote unquote commit suicide like Jeffrey did.
Right.
So I'm thinking, maybe she's like, well, Jeffrey was able to be murdered because he was in solitary. He wasn't around the rest of everybody else. Like he was isolated.
Yeah.
So maybe she thought, getting put in general population, there's going to be some unsavory characters there, but maybe it'll be harder for the cabal themselves to kill her.
Okay. So it's kind of it's an interesting thing. One, this might secure her life, or two, this gives the enemies a even better alibi. Instead of pulling the whole quote suicide nonsense for a second time, they say, "Oh, a bunch of very angry prisoners found out who Ghislaine Maxwell was and her involvement with pedo stuff, and stabbed her 50 times with a toothbrush."
Well, and that very well could, but here's another angle for that. If you're thinking, like, you got to put yourselves, and I know this is, you don't want to put yourself in Ghislaine's shoes. She's a human piece of garbage. But I'm talking about, like, as far as survival is concerned. So I put myself in her shoes, and I'm thinking, well, she has offshore accounts still worth millions. If she knows anybody at all that she can contact to be able to get that money, she could actually fill a whole bunch of prison commissary accounts to maybe pay for protection.
Yeah. How interesting.
Basically own her own private little army inside the prison.
That would be funny. Like, I mean, yeah, it's kind of messed up, but how peculiar. You know, like, it's one of those things where it's like, well, I don't know if that'd really make a difference, because even an army inside of a prison isn't going to save you when the cops come knocking. All right, Ghislaine, time to go. You know, like, time to. I'm just
talking about
protection, like
protection from the toothbrush.
All right, protection from being suicided and that sort of thing.
Correct.
Well, and even then, something tells me that Ghislaine isn't. I don't know. I really don't think she's wanting to give up as much info as, you know, we'd hope that she would. I don't think she wants to. I don't think she wants to tell the entire truth. We have to understand.
Well, she was in on it, so.
Yeah, she's this wicked, evil witch, and it's just one of those things where she might talk, and she'll only talk until people are satisfied. So that's why I say keep the fire burning under her ass.
That butler claimed that she had a whole photo album of underage girls, pictures of nude underage girls she kept like as a collection.
Yeah.
So she's just as disgusting as Jeffrey was.
Truly. No, she was Jeffrey's right-hand woman, really.
She was the right-hand woman and his madam.
Exactly. And it all just ties together. And everything between Teigen, right? Like, you remember that? Chrissy Teigen? All this stuff. Like, look at that and all the tweets and all this stuff. That's the mentality. That is the evil we're dealing with here. It is so sick, twisted, and perverse that it, like, you know, if I wasn't so damn desensitized hearing about this for so long, I would be sick to my stomach. You know? There was a time I would be.
You know, that's the crazy thing too, though, is just when you think that things are going to go away with this particular family or whatever you want to call it,
or the ring,
it pops back up.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's because people don't let it go. The whole, you know, they've pushed all this stuff, and there was a time when they got close to it where people stopped sharing the Epstein memes. Everyone was very close to shutting up, but somebody opened their mouth about it again. And that's when everything started ramping up, but people were latched onto this. Yeah, go ahead, blow up Beirut. Go ahead, start COVID. Do whatever. We're not letting go of this. You killed a man that would have saved children with his forced out testimony. You were hiding it, and we're not letting it go.
I truly believe that this was by design of Donald Trump.
Yep.
Part of it. Because, and he told us what he was going to do. He said he was going to drain the swamp. And what happens when you got this nasty, murky water, you know, on top, and you start draining it? See, you couldn't see below the surface of that water. And when you start draining it, you see this old, like, nasty, like, half, like, rotten car and all this other crap.
Rodney,
like,
what are you doing in here?
Yeah. You see all this nasty crap. You see like snakes and all this other stuff that you didn't even know was below the water.
Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
You know, and it does make sense. It's like,
and so this crap we didn't even notice. We didn't even see. I mean, look at how long we've been dealing with this. We haven't even seen it. That the girl that played in that movie I told you about that I've been doing study on, that pretty baby. Mm-hmm. This freaking pre-adolescent girl in a movie about a brothel.
Mm-hmm.
This was in 1972.
Mm-hmm.
I forget her name right now. She's the same one that played in Blue Lagoon.
Yeah. And even, let's go here. We got some comments. If they really wanted her dead, she would be dead. Well, yeah. Kind of, I don't know. Like, it's part of, like, it's...
Well, and Well, I think it's by design, and again, and that does kind of probably play into COVID. You're keeping the razzle dazzle over here with COVID, keeping everybody's mind occupied. So you can maybe let as the cabal, because they know that they're caught with Ghislaine, and maybe they think, well, they were able to sweep Jeffrey under the rug, but if we kill her too, it's really going to look bad.
Yeah, and that's
possibly
it.
So we gotta let her. We're gonna make her take the fall.
Right.
And some others, maybe some lower on the totem pole, are gonna go with her.
Mm-hmm.
But we're gonna keep the razzle dazzle over here with COVID, so the big names, such as Hillary Clinton, will get away scot-free.
You gotta say, it does seem kind of odd, especially here in New Mexico and everywhere else. Like, once something breaks through with the pedo stuff, something also mysteriously happens with the panic and the COVID. The numbers are rising, the death toll is skyrocketed. And it's all just a distraction. Not to say that COVID's not real, but they are definitely milking the shit out of it.
You know, that makes me wonder.
Another comment.
What is Bill Richardson up to?
I really do wonder. Probably looking like Ellen DeGeneres, looking like a freaking shriveled up raisin of panic.
Yeah, because he's got those withdrawals from the...
Dude, the adrenochrome withdrawals. Dude, have you seen Ellen? Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, she looks like somebody beat her up.
I saw one that said something about, this is, something about Eminem or something.
Yeah, it was something like that. It was... I don't know, but it was like somebody posted a pretty good one. It was like, oh, did the poor little pedo didn't get their adrenochrome today? And it was all like, sad Ellen. Anyways, we got some comments rolling in. Quote, we forget this is international as well. America is a large but still singular piece of the puzzle. Those bastards have people everywhere, which they do. I remember Amsterdam being another hot spot. Amsterdam, Saudi Arabia, China. Pretty much everyone that's a country is involved.
Well, yeah, and Wayfair is, we know for a fact it was worldwide. They had, I believe it was Munich, Germany, and somewhere in Spain. That was their two main manufacturers overseas.
Nigeria.
Yeah.
All those other places. They are in the Mormon Church, as was Mormon Church, as was being said earlier. They are in the Catholic Church as well. They are in so many think tanks and financial institutions. The swamp is worldwide. We are only at the tip of the iceberg. Imagine the scum that is sitting at the bottom of this swamp if what we have seen so far is just the surface level stuff. Gotta start using her actual name, Ellen DeGenerate. Yeah. Ellen DeGenerate. That picture, I should have loaded that up real quick. In fact, I'm probably going to Google that so everyone can see Ellen DeGeneres.
Sad Ellen.
Yeah, sad Ellen. Oh my gosh. She's old too, man. She's a geezerly type.
You just sounded like your dad there. That was kind of funny.
Yeah. I'll have to get him on the show sometime. You know?
Yeah, we should have your dad on the show.
He he's kind of old, though. He doesn't take being up late very well, you know? That's probably the only deal, but yeah, he'd be great to have on the show. I'll have to
Well, maybe we could, have him at the beginning of the show, you know? Have him on for an hour and be like, all right, it's your bedtime.
Yeah. And it's just kind of that thing. He's a hard worker to this day.
Yeah. Yep. I know the type.
Let's see. Recent photo.
Speaking of Ellen and of course DeGeneres and everything, there's been some great names come out for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, Kamala Harris, didn't her dad own slaves in Jamaica? Speaking of.
So yeah, Kamala Harris, let's kind of run into her real quick while you're looking that up. So she was Indian, and her mom was Indian, her dad was Jamaican. Her dad in Jamaica owned slaves. He has a biography, and he brags about it, like oh, this is this is the wonderful thing about me, you know. He was a slave owner. And so basically the DNC is trying to vote in a second generation slave owner. I mean, yeah, she doesn't own the slaves now,
Right.
but I mean, she grew up there, so obviously she probably was waited on by slaves.
My reparations.
Yeah,
Sorry,
she is not African American. She's Jamaican and Indian.
Yeah.
But I saw one really was pretty good today. You know, because they got Joe and the Hoe. They got well, some of them I'm not even gonna say on here. They're not nice. Just very vulgar. But I also just like Commie Harris.
Right. I got a picture here. It's stupid. I'll send it to the Discord. I'll just run
This is where everybody can see, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw it on OBS real quick. Let's see. Image. There we go. First one. Boom. So we'll throw it up real quick. This is a little meme that someone made. That Phil win no adrenochrome and not no future neither. Let me go ahead and throw that in the Discord radio control real quick. That's funny. Pictures. There you go. Warspirit, so you can see it too. Yep. It has been interesting seeing all these characters, all of these celebrities that have been with Americans. Sometime, like now, like Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks has been a part of my life for as long as I've existed. He's Woody.
Me too.
Yeah, Woody in Toy Story. He was in Green Mile, a film that made me have a freaking existential crisis when I turned 13 years old. Like that. I don't know why that film made me ponder, but I was like, what does it mean to be alive? Am I gonna die? I'm gonna die someday. That's really weird. But like seeing him be like completely, yep, you know what I mean? That's it.
Yeah. Even me, I mean, like I remember the first film I watched as a kid with him in it. It was Big. Have you ever seen Big?
No, I don't think so.
It's an awesome movie. So it's this kid's name is Josh Baskins, and not related to Carol Baskin, by the way, and which by the way, Tiger King guy made it into the news again. Here, I'll tell you that in a minute. Yeah, well, is one of the people that worked for him. But let me finish this first. So Big is Josh Baskins is this kid that he wishes on this Zoltar machine. It looked like a fortune teller machine, like the kind that you put the quarter in and you had to like roll the quarter into the mouth.
Yeah, okay.
And it's at this state fair. Well, he wishes to be big because this girl that he likes, because he hasn't hit his growth spurts yet. You know how boys are usually shorter for a while and then they shoot up. And so he was too short to ride this ride. And so the other guy that he really didn't like gets to go on the ride with the girl of his dreams. Well, and pisses him off. Yeah. And so he's all mad and he wishes, I wish to be big. Well, he goes home and he's in Brooklyn, New York. Wakes up the next morning and he's a full-grown man. Yeah, and his mother thinks that this guy that's in her house kidnapped her son.
Oh no.
And chases him out with a butcher knife. And of course, he has to run from the cops and all this, and it's a funny movie. And his best friend, his kid, comes and visits him in New York, where he's living, and he gets a job and all this other stuff, and finally finds in the end, long story short, he finds the machine again and goes back to being a kid. But it's very funny and it's pretty cool because he gets a job at this toy company testing toys, and they're able this company's able to figure out what kids want because he tests these toys and they don't understand, why this adult guy understands what little boys want, but they, he's like, well, no, this toy sucks. Do this here.
Yeah.
But it's a great movie, but now I'm very sad because now every time I watch it,
it ruins it, man. Like, one of my favorite films, it's a very slow film, but it was based on East Germany and an actual, like, American spy that crash landed there.
Yeah.
Area. Like, I actually really enjoyed that film. I was the only guy who didn't fall asleep in the theater. It was a very boring film.
Sully was a great movie.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool films, but anyways, before we go off on more talks about films, the pedophily is a very real thing, and Ghislaine, Maxwell, and before, I just wanted to cover something else that we have in our title, is the FBI testimony of the Russian probe, and more fact that it was just BS, which everyone's kind of onto it, like, because I'm sitting back, I'm like, look, man, Vladimir Putin and Trump, like, yeah, they're both, I could see them being friends on the concept that they're both very anti-globalist, which is pretty dope. So Kevin Kleinsman.
Yeah, but let me just, before we go into that, see, Putin is ex-KGB. Mm-hmm. He will always be ex-KGB.
Well,
Putin wants to bring back the Soviet Union.
Yeah, Putin wants to control Eastern Europe and the world. Like, let's not play around. However, Trump and him might know, enemy of my enemy. Not the first time we've done something like that with Russia. No, except with the New World Order and that sort of thing. Vladimir Putin isn't someone who's going to be like, what? One world order? No, this is my Russia! That's going to be what, Vladimir Putin does, and whether that's good or bad is whatever. But that's as far as their friendship goes.
Mr. Putin, if you're out there listening to this, I'm going to channel General Patton for a minute for you, sir. I'm not shaking your hand or any other Russian son of a bitch. Thank you. Anyways, moving on.
I'd like to have some caviar with Putin. Try some of his vodka. Putin. What kind of hard boss do you listen to? Anyways, Kevin Kleinsman come out and
Kleinsmith.
Kleinsmith?
Yes, Kleinsmith.
Klansman?
Kleinsmith.
Kleinsmith. Kevin come out and he basically was like, he's being now, like, was it investigated, testifying? What is he doing?
So he is coming out, he actually come out today in front of the court and admitted that he basically pled guilty for falsifying statements in the Russia probe. He's the one that got a lot of this stuff going on with Comey and all that other. Yes, exactly.
Crap.
And he was one of the key ones that knew it was false, but it's the same narrative, and they've used this for gun control where they'll say, oh, well, so and so was, if there's a shooting, he was probably conservative. Well, how do you know? Well, we just know.
Right. Well, that's the thing. When it comes to these alphabet organizations, FBI, like, I'm sitting there, it's like the FBI, while they've done a lot in the name of stopping trafficking, I can't help but wonder how much they were behind a lot of what they stopped. It's just one of those suspicions. With the government, it's always with that.
They have been, especially through the Obama years, have become so corrupt. The FBI has just become this corrupt agency. I don't even want to know about the CIA. I knew they were already pretty much corrupt.
They've been gone since the 40s.
Yeah, but the FBI, I think, got even worse under the Obama administration.
Yeah, dude.
And
NSA,
he got
Homeland Security, all that just went.
He got his buddies in there. And that's the reason why, and that's the whole thing coming out too of the Obamagate stuff is how Obama, and this is tied directly to the Russia probe, because a lot of this stuff that Kleinsmith is talking about with the Russia probe stuff was also about how it ties in with the Obama administration spying on Trump.
Yeah.
And so all this stuff is coming out, and see, Obama had his buddies in the FBI doing all this, spying on another American citizen for political gain.
Uh-oh. Hold on, I'm gonna mute my mic for a moment.
You didn't. Hey! Oh! Sorry about that, folks. If you can still hear me, I don't know if you can or not. Let's. Is there anything else here that we haven't gone over? Let's see. We went over Ghislaine Maxwell. We went over all of that. You know, one thing to mention about the Klein Smith stuff, folks, is again going back to how it ties in with Obama. I am curious to see how Obama's going to skate this. Is he going to play it cool and just, be quiet about it? Is he going to get up there and, talk about how I don't understand what was going on? I don't know this Kevin Kleinsmith. He's not a friend of mine. Just like Reverend Jeremiah Wright wasn't a friend of mine, even though he talked about me in one of his sermons about America's chickens are coming home to roost. But it's going to be interesting to see how the Obama family skates this. We'll see. Let's see. What are we going to talk about for survival stuff, folks? We've talked about bug out bags. We've talked about bug out vehicles. We've talked about, kind of like off the grid stuff and everything. One thing I would like to talk about, and we kind of talked about it before, but did we talk about hammocks? I think maybe let's go over hammocks again. So if you're up in the mountains, man, a hammock and an A-frame tarp is the way to go. They're going to hear me now? Hello? Well, I'm just going to keep talking, folks, because I don't know if you can hear me or not. And I hate dead air. So a hammock and an A-frame tarp is a really good way to go. If you're like up in the mountains to where you can have trees close enough to you. And another thing to understand is the correct hang for your hammock. You want a 30-degree hang. And a good way to do that is to take your right hand or your left hand, depending on which side of the tree you're on, and make an L with your thumb and your trigger finger into a 90-degree. And the rope of the hammock should be right parallel with the tip of your trigger finger to the tip of your thumb. I know maybe that's kind of hard to understand maybe on radio. I wish we did have video sometimes, but trust me, you don't want to see me right now. I'm eating chips and probably got some in my beard. But so you want a 30-degree hang, and the reason for that is because if you got a 30-degree hang and you have like a double nest hammock, you can actually kind of set at an angle in the hammock and actually lay flat. Most people think when you lay in a hammock, you kind of got that banana shape. But if you'll actually lay at an angle, you can actually lay just as flat as in a bed. And it's really, really comfortable that way. Now, you do need to have a big enough A-frame tarp to be able to accommodate that. Not just this little bitty thing, which I learned the hard way on my last trip. You get wet, especially if it's raining a lot. And in August in the mountains, it rains. It rains a lot. So I sure wished I could see your guys' comments, but I'm not on the OBS. Let's see here. What are some other bug out stuff here? Hope you guys aren't getting too bored. Sorry. I'm looking some stuff up to talk about real quick here. Real quick. Won't be but a minute here. Oh, yeah. Hey, you know what? Would be kind of an interesting thing. So, have you folks ever heard of heirloom seeds? So, and this is more of a I guess a long-term survival thing. But so eventually, if we make it out of the major part of the war or whatever, eventually we're going to want to settle back down, and things are going to get going back to normal. We might not have power, we might not have this, we might not have that, but so we're going to have to figure out how to survive, just like this survived like back in the old West. And a big part of that is to have your garden. Well, the problem with most seeds of nowadays is they're GMO seeds. And GMO seeds, you for the most part, you can't make them grow. And so you're going to want non-heirloom seeds. And that means you're going to want seeds that aren't genetically modified. Now you can find non-GMO seeds on Amazon. They got actually a really cool starter pack, and I did that 1 year for our garden. And the cool thing about non-GMO seeds is, you just plant them 1 year, and the next year, or when everything comes up, like say for example, green chilies. And in fact, just so you guys know, hatch green chili are non-GMO, so you don't even have to worry about that. Get you some hatch green chili, plant it. You got your seeds. Dry those seeds. Put them out like on a napkin. Let them dry, and then stick those in a Ziploc bag. Stick the Ziploc bag in the freezer. They'll be good for next year. Let them thaw out, in the ambient temperature for 3 or 4 hours before you plant them. Bing, bang, boom, you're ready to go. I think since Jonathan is muted, that nobody can hear me.
That's weird. I don't know why nobody can hear you. It's really weird.
Can you? I can.
Yeah. But anyways, I'm back. I do have to prematurely leave. I am on call with where I work. So it's
all right. Well, we're pretty close to the end there. We was just kind of wrapping up, so it's actually perfect timing.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and pray.
Yeah, go ahead. Lead us out with that.
Father God, we come to you today, Lord. We thank you, Lord, for everyone that came here to listen to me and John banter on, and we just thank you for them, Lord, and thank you for the audience that we're building with this company, Lord, that we want to expand for the good of the people that are listening to it, Lord, for information, Lord, because information is golden, Lord, in today's age, real truth. And Lord, we pray that you would just open people's eyes to the truth, Lord. And Lord, I pray that you would just, a blessing would go over each and every person tonight that listened and that attended and that spoke and everything, Lord, that you would just bless us, Lord, in Jesus' name. Lord, that you would we would get into your word, get into the truth, Lord, and talk with you and worship you each and every day, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Lord, for everything you continue to provide for us.